as I go along. Vayomer, and he said, Kano kineti ladonai Elohei tzevaot. I absolutely am zealot or jealous. I'm very zealous for the Lord, God of hosts. Ki azvu veritecha b'nei Yisrael. For the sons of Israel have forsaken your covenant. Et mizbechotecha harasu. Your altars, again, the topicalization of the object, they have destroyed. Ve'et nevi'echa haregu v'charev. And your prophets, they have slain by the sword. Va'ivater ani levadi. I am alone left. Vayivakshu et nafshi lekachta. And they ask, and they want, and they are trying to take my soul away. They are trying to kill me as well. So Eliyahu presents himself, not just in this verse taken from 1 Kings 19, but throughout these chapters, as a prophet defined by his zeal for the Lord. Here in 19:10, it repeats itself twice in that chapter. And portraying himself as the lone defender of the covenant of God. And even that, they're trying to abolish in this time of national apostasy. Eliyahu is the only one loyal to the covenant. Okay, and this loyalty to the covenant leads him to be highly confrontational, highly zealous and jealous towards the Lord. In Malachi, we find slightly different Eliyahu of reconciliation alongside a possibility of judgment. Okay. Hine anochi sholeach lachem et Eliyahu hanavi. Behold, I am sending Elijah the prophet to you. Lifnei bo yom Adonai hagadol ve'hanora. Before the day of the Lord, the coming of the day of the Lord, the great one and the awesome or awful one. Ve'eshiv lev avot al banim ve'lev banim al avotam. He shall turn the heart of the fathers to the sons and the heart of the sons to the fathers. Children, kind of a reconciliation, okay, from a zealot prophet on Mount Carmel that brings that fire from heaven associated with violence and wrath and enforcement. Now we have reconciliation to prevent judgment. Pen avo ve'iketi et haaretz cherem, lest I come and I smite the land utterly with destruction. So Eliyahu in Malachi, in those last verses of the book of Malachi, is portrayed as a slightly different prophet. This transition continues to throughout rabbinic literature, and I want to read for you quickly something that is from rabbinic literature that explains why Eliyahu is always present in two of our most celebrated ceremonies. Jews, not all Jews observe all traditions equally. Many Jews do not observe many of the traditions of the Jews. But there are two traditions of the Jews that almost all Jews keep. One of them is the Seder night, and the other is the circumcision. Even if you're not very practicing as a Jew, you are most likely keep circumcision and Seder. These are the only two commandments, by the way, that you have to do, and if not, the Torah says that you are excommunicated from the people. I don't think that people who keep these two know that these are the only positive commandments for which you may be excommunicated, but they do understand it's part of the covenant, and both of these are associated with this blood covenant of the circumcision, of cutting something, and of the slaughtering of the Passover. I'm reading this from Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer. Yeah. It's considered to be a late midrash. Okay. So Eliyahu is Amad Eliyahu Barach Meretz Israel v'nimlat. Eliyahu fled from the land of Israel, ran away. Nigla alav I'm skipping a little bit. Nigla alav hakadosh baruch hu. I'll use the curses so you can follow me. Nigla alav hakadosh baruch hu ve'amar lo. The Holy One, blessed be Him, was revealed to him and said to him, Ma lechafo Eliyahu. What are you doing here, O Eliyahu? Kano kineti. I am indeed zealous for the Lord. Again, we read the verse in 1 Kings 19:10. Amar lo hakadosh baruch hu, said to him, the Holy One, blessed be Him, Le'olam ata mekane, you are always zealous. Kineta bashitim al gilui arayot. In rabbinic literature, Phineas and Elijah is the same character. Okay, the same. So, Shneimar Pinchas, as it is said, Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aharon HaKohen, Phineas son of Elazar, son of Aharon HaKohen, Heshiv et chamati me'al bnei Israel bekaneo et kinati betocham. The verses talk about the zealousy of Phineas, and that's for the rabbinic literature, it's the same figure as Eliyahu. V'chan ata mekaneh. And here also you are zealous. Chayecha, by your life. This is like a strong oath. She'en Yisrael osin berit milah ad she'ata ro'eh be'enecha. That the people of Israel are not going to circumcise until you until you see with your own eyes. Mikan hitkinu chachamim she'yu osim moshav kavod lemalach habrit. This is why the rabbis have decided that there would be a special chair for the angel of the covenant. If you've been to a circumcision in a synagogue, you'll see that there is a special chair. They made these special chairs. Sometimes you can see them in synagogues, and oftentimes it would say Kiseh shel Eliyahu. This is how it's known. Chair of Eliyahu. Let me show you pictures so you see. These are very common chairs. You would find them. Okay. You would find them in synagogues for circumcision. Okay. You can see even, I'm sure there is an English entry for this. Chair of Elijah. Okay. Chair of Elijah, Elijah's chair. Unoccupied chair, reserved for ceremony of Brit. Okay. So why? So Eliyahu could view with his own eyes that the people of Israel are actually keeping the covenant. This is why we also keep a chair or a place or a cup for Elijah to see the covenant, his attendance in the covenant of the Passover, and so forth. And it continues. If you want the English is here from Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer. What else? These last verses of Malachi are very interesting because they demonstrate the difference between the Jewish Bible and the Christian Bible as well. Because I would bet dollars to donuts that Jews, at least Jews in Israel, don't know that for Christians, oftentimes these are also considered to be the last verses of the Hebrew Bible, because of a different order that Jewish Bibles have and Christian Bibles have, even when they have the same books. So if you have a Hebrew Bible or even an English Bible, Jewish English Bible, you'll see that it ends with either Ezra and Nehemiah or Chronicles. Okay, most commonly the last book of the Jewish Bible, be that the original Hebrew Bible or a translation of the Hebrew Bible into English, the last book would be the Book of Chronicles. Okay, so if someone would say in English Genesis to Revelations, the Jewish equivalent would be Genesis to Chronicles, as far as our whole Bible. Now, for Christians, the end of the Hebrew Bible is Malachi, right, guys?
That's right.
Right. Now, one would say, okay, but they still have the same books. What's the difference? Why is the book of Malachi at the end of the Hebrew Bible? Because it ends with these verses. Again, in the similar rabbinic kind of thinking of taking Phineas, who lives 400 years or let's say much earlier than Elijah, about 400 years earlier, and saying, oh, Phineas is Elijah, alongside the same. I'm not saying it's exactly the same, but in a similar kind of thinking, for Christians, John the Baptist is the Elijah of the New Testament, even though Jesus himself has certain elements of Elijah built into his character, the 40 days not eating and drinking, walking the desert, not getting into that. But Elijah in the New Testament is John the Baptist. So by putting those verses in the book of Malachi at the end of the Old Testament or the Hebrew Bible in there, in the Christian edition of the Bible, they put it directly before Matthew, before the Gospels, and this is how it is built to kind of lead from the Hebrew Bible to the Greek Bible, to the New Testament. So these verses are also interesting in that